Hello everyone, Michael Knight here, and today I'm going to be providing you with an American's Guide to Germany. Now, I'm an American. I was born in the US on the East Coast. I lived my first 21 years in America. I went to, high school in America. I did university, my bachelor's degree in America. And then at the age of 21, I moved to Germany, spent about 4 years there, and in the last 6 years, I've pretty much lived in almost a little time in almost every country in Europe, in Russia, Albania, Kosovo, all different places. But like I just said, the majority of my time when I first came to Europe was actually in Germany. And I feel pretty good about speaking on the German culture and what it's like in Germany because I went through all the different phases of a person who often moves there. I went there, actually worked a year first, learned that you could study there for free, got a master's degree there where they actually paid me to study, which was awesome. And then I worked again in like a laboratory there. And during this process, I really was part of the system. I was paying taxes, I had a residency permit, I had to switch between student visa, work visa. I had German friends, I had a lot of foreign friends from all different countries who, so I could get their perspective on Germany. And we talked all the time. And again, I was there about 4 years in different cities. So that being said, it's important to remember that my worldview and perspective was heavily shaped as an American, right? So a lot of the comparisons I'll be making is kind of like Germany to America. Although I spent the last 10 years in almost 40 different countries, so I do have a better global worldview. The comparisons, again, I think I'll typically be compared to the US. Because, when a person might say, oh, Germans are a little bit closed off and cold, that's usually American making a comparison between Germany and the United States. And I find the United States is very not like any other country I've been to. The United States, where everyone's like, hey, how's it going? Talking to strangers on the street, or in the metro. In most other countries, people are not that open. So, to an American, a German might seem kind of closed off, but to a Finnish person, like a German might be the most talkative person they ever met. So again, it's all relative is the point I'm trying to make. And so also I'm sure there's going to be a lot of criticism throughout this video at some point. I'm open to criticism if I make it. I know Germans, one of their favorite things to do is correct things that are not correct and make corrections. So if you find some fact, not an opinion, but more like a fact that I say that is completely wrong, yes, I'm happy for you to correct it in the comment section. If it's even really worthwhile, I'll pin it to the top so people get the correct information. So the type of things I wanted to talk about today, I'll probably break this video into maybe 3 different parts even, depending on how long it gets, is we'll start with kind of my general opinions of Germany. I want to talk about the education system, studying there, the cost of living, how expensive it is, transportation, getting around, working, what's it like to work in like a German company. My kind of thoughts of how the system is kind of structured for work. It kind of, there's a lot of training certificates. It's kind of still based on the guild system in some ways. What I think kind of might hold people back a bit about it, get into stuff, general stuff like the weather, the food. We'll talk about health insurance. We'll talk about taxes, like how much money you can keep if you're working there, how that works. Like what type of people, like a single man versus a single woman versus a family, who's going to benefit from the system the most. We'll talk about like getting residency, and then we'll get into things, such as dating and relationships, how they seem to work. What the girls and guys are like, and then also kind of finish up with talking about a lot of different like cultural stuff, like what are going to be maybe protect you from making some wrong assumptions or misinterpreting interactions. That's a big thing, like from your culture. If you'll misinterpret what the person's doing, you might see it as cold or mean, but they're just being straightforward. And we'll talk about stuff like that. I have a long list of stuff like that, and that'll probably be like the last video I make on the subject of living in Germany. So all right, let's just get started from the beginning. So overall, I really, really enjoyed my time in Germany. I find Germany to be like a super high functioning working country. Now I know some Germans be like, oh no, it's nothing like it used to be. The trains now, they can even be 5 minutes late. It's terrible. But you have to understand, Germans who are watching this, you have very high standards and expectations. And the reason that your country works so well is because you have these standards and expectations. I've been in countries where you're lucky if the bus or train comes that day at all. And if it doesn't, they're like, well, I guess you'll wait till tomorrow. You'll see. So in comparison to like almost anywhere I've been, maybe like Switzerland and a few other countries, or Austria, are at the same level as Germany, where things just work. Like the systems are in place, everything just works so nicely as long as you're working properly within the system. Now, if you want to do something new, something innovative, maybe entrepreneurial, or like maybe under the table for some people, if you want to do that, sometimes Germany's not the best place, because if you're not operating in the system, it can be very complicated to try to get something done. But if you're playing by the German rules, you're going down the road they have beautifully paved for you towards your goals, the system will actually help you a lot. Let's start with talking about education, the free education. So actually, when I moved to Germany, I did not know they had free education. I graduated from my bachelor's. I wanted to travel the world, do something new. I was an engineer. I was like, hey, what countries like engineers? I went online, Germans like, we like engineers. And I was like, oh, great, you'll give me a visa to work for a year? They're like, sure, come, we need engineers in Germany. So I signed like a 1-year working contract at a electrical engineering company. And I went there to work for a year. And it was during that year of working in the company that I actually learned that in Germany, education is free. Now, as a European, you're probably like, yeah, that makes sense. It's free here in Sweden too. Actually, they pay us in Sweden to study. What's your point, American? And my point is like, in America, if you don't know, it's insanely expensive. My bachelor at the time, I think, cost me $50,000 a year for a 4-year program. Now I think it's up to $60,000. Now, of course, I had scholarship from the university that paid a really large chunk of it. And then I had my parents help me pay a chunk of it. And then the rest of it, I took out loans from the government. And so that's how it gets paid. But yeah, come on, $200,000 plus for a 4-year degree. And I studied engineering, something useful, where you actually have the potential of earning money to pay it back. But it's the same price for any degree, right? So if you study poetry, which might be an awesome thing to study, but is it worth going $200,000 in debt? I don't know. So during that first year in Germany, I learned that, oh, you can study here for free? That's awesome. So I applied to a university there for a master's degree, and since I also in electrical engineering, so I had a bachelor's, I already had, that I had work experience, so I got into that master's. And I remember my parents being like, wait, it's completely free? Now, by completely free, I mean, I think it was 200 euros a semester. This is the fee, the actual fee, like administrative fee, like technically no tuition, but 200 euros a semester, which to me, you got more than your money's worth for that 200 euros, because at least in the state, Germany, I think it's 16 states, they're called Bundesland, and there's 16 states in Germany, and at least in the state that I was living in, Nordrhein-Westfalen, which is where I studied, actually not where I worked in Hessen, and then I moved to Nordrhein-Westfalen to study. And at least in this state, if you're a student, it was amazing, because you paid this 200 euro fee per semester, so every 6 months, and you got unlimited access to all the trains, buses, trams, what else, trolley cars or whatever they had, the swinging Schwerbahn or whatever this thing is, and Wuppertal that hangs from the ceiling. So you get all that stuff for free, not for free, but it's within that $200 fee, which is more than worth it. A lot of people in Germany actually just pretend to be students. They sign up for university, don't even go, just so they can get this ticket for transportation. Like they're like, yeah, I'll register as a student for another semester, and I'll never even attend one class because I'll get kicked out eventually. But during that time, I'll have this free transportation ticket, which is amazing. Now you can't use the really high-speed trains, that travel between, Berlin or Munich and stuff like that. But within this state, you can get on all the regional trains for free. So that means like in your town, you can get on the bus for free, take it to the train station, and then get on the regional train and go to a new city. You can even go like one stop into the Netherlands, and then you can transfer and pay like, at the time, like, I don't know, 15, 20 euro for their local transportation and get you all the way to Amsterdam. So that was amazing. So the fee, some people might say, oh no, 200 euros is still a fee. Yeah, compared to $50,000 a semester or a year, so $25,000 a semester, 200 is nothing, and you get free transportation, which is way more than worth it. You just have to take 2 or 3 trips, and it already pays for itself. And I used to travel every single weekend, or twice a week, to explore different cities and have fun. So that was awesome. So yeah, it was free education, and not only that, after the first semester, I had like super good grades, almost perfect, and I was able to apply for a scholarship based on academic performance. So then I got the scholarship, so I got free money from the scholarship. And a lot of the other people there at the university from other countries, they're like, more like South America or Asia. Countries, you'd have to check the list. With Germany, they call them like developing nations, I guess. Their scholarships were amazing. They applied for scholarships way in advance from their home countries. And usually you have to if you're interested in doing this, make sure you start like a year or two in advance looking into do it. Like in Germany, like I said, the system's really good, but it's a long system and you have to go down the path. It's not that complicated, but it takes time. Like you need to get approved for the scholarship like way before you actually were going to be studying in Germany. Unlike my scholarship, which I got based on academic performance because I did well the first semester, which you can also apply and get that one too, but one like that too. But these people are more like from developing nations, and the German government actually paid for the people to fly over. They got their flight over from wherever they're from to Germany, and then they got like, I think at the time, probably now it's probably more like €1,000 a month, but at the time it was like €750 a month. So basically on that you can pay all your living costs. You don't even have to work, but you can get a job at the university as a student. So you have more money on top of the scholarship you're already having for your studies. So there's like really, really good opportunities in Germany to study. And also, this is a good time to mention, I studied in completely English. Now when it comes to bachelor's degrees in Germany, there's not so many bachelor's degrees in English. Most of them are in German. But Germany has made a lot, but there's still a lot in bachelor's in English. But Germany has made a lot of master's degrees that are in English, especially in engineering. So remember when I was looking, there was over, I think at the time, 200 degrees you could do in Germany. I think most of them for free as long as you're accepted, of course. You have to be accepted to university, but if you do, there's no tuition. And there was, like 200 of them. So there's a lot of, and it makes sense. They want to bring in educated people into the country who can work and then pay taxes and remain there, help their demographic issues. So back to what I was saying about my parents. My parents were just like, when I first said I could study there for free, they didn't understand, as Americans are like, for free, like when's this bill gonna come in the mail? Why would they educate a foreigner for free? This doesn't make any sense. They're gonna teach you in English for free and you never have to pay them back. Like you have to stay there and work a few years, right? Otherwise you have to pay the government back, the German government back. And I was like, no, you can leave right when you're done if you want. And like as Americans, my parents didn't really understand it, but that's actually the way it works. And also for non-European Union people, Germany now I think is one of the few countries where you don't have to be an EU member. Like, for example, American's not an EU member, Chinese is not an EU member, Russian's not an EU member. You don't have to be part of the EU and you can still study in Germany for free. A lot of other European nations, they charge tuition for foreign, or by foreign I mean non-EU students. So okay, maybe like a Polish person could study in Germany for free because they're in the EU, but someone from, well, Germany's not a good example. Let's say like Spain or France, like a German could study in Spain or France for no tuition, but if American or Russian or Chinese came to France, they would have to pay a tuition because they're a foreigner. I'm not sure if that's true about France. I'm pretty sure it's true. I think there's only like 4 countries now in the European Union which you don't have to pay at all no matter where you're from in the world. But some of those are like, I think Norway is like that too. But the living cost in Norway is insane. It's like over $10 for a beer. Your apartment's going to be very expensive. So even in Norway, even if you don't have to pay tuition, you still have to show you have like, I don't know, probably at least 20,000 euros in a bank account locked up to show you can pay your living cost for a year there or something, because the living costs are super high. So probably in Europe, I would say, well, it's free basically. So the value for the money and the living cost, which one of the next things I'll talk about after I'm done talking about education. The living cost in Germany for the basics of like really what you need is not that high at all. They keep the basic stuff really low, but any time a luxury good or anything above the, I wouldn't say bare minimum, but this minimum standard, that can get pretty expensive. Like there's a lot of luxury taxes on cars, gasoline is super expensive, like traveling without the student ticket gets very expensive. But for the basics, and especially as a student where you're studying, it's not too expensive. So to finish up talking about the education, I guess a few things I'll say is, of course, German education standards compared to a lot of countries is very high. The German system is very, each state for lower education, for their what they call high school and stuff, is kind of state by state regulates it. But on a kind of university higher level, it seems to be pretty equal across the board. Now, people will tell you like the best for engineering, I just know because that's what I was in, like, Darmstadt, TU München, Aachen. These would be like the top 3 cities. These are the best engineering schools in Germany, which they probably are. But the standard between them and the rest of the universities is nothing like the standards difference that are in America, for example. Like in America, the difference between Caltech and MIT and some, I don't want to insult someone, but some third-rate small engineering school in the middle of nowhere, I mean, it's night and day. It's like completely different thing. In America, the university you go to MIT, you go to an Ivy League school, it just blows doors open for you, right? Because just having that degree means so much. The funny thing is, like in Germany, I went to an Ivy League school, and in Germany, like when I was applying for internships and jobs and stuff, I had my German degree, which wasn't like a very prestigious place in Germany, but I had like perfect notes, like perfect grades, and I had my American degree. And no one even knew like my Ivy League school, like they weren't even aware of it, but they were looking at my German degree and like, oh, you have 1.1 grade, which is almost perfect, like a 1's perfect. This is amazing. And I was like, yeah, but that's actually not as impressive as my American degree, which I have a lower grade, but it was a much more difficult university. They don't see that. Germans, they look at the numbers, basically. They look at the data, and the data is like, oh no, this is German, that means it's good quality because it came from German, this degree, and you have this high note score. That's the type of things that were like most important to them. So overall, like I said, the point of that was the system is pretty equal across the board. Like it's not like really some universities are that much greater than others. They are, like Heidelberg, like for medicine again, is higher. These places are better. They are a little bit more prestigious. They're going to help you find a job better if you graduate from one of them. But if you're, again, we're saying from the American perspective, it's not like the huge difference that would be between an MIT and some, like in America, it can make a complete difference, the name on the paper. And in Germany, it's more important the notes in grade and that it's German and not from a foreign university. That's, I would say, is more important to them. And something very interesting about the German education system is, well, there's a couple of interesting things I guess I'll get into that compared to America. One thing is, they have this kind of standardization of courses across the whole country. So what that means is, again, it's free, but given that it's free to study in Germany, they don't want people just taking up spots, especially for highly desirable programs that aren't serious about it. So this is what they do. A lot of times, if you fail a course 3 times, you're barred from taking that course again. But you're not only barred from taking that course at the university you're at, you're barred from taking it anywhere in the whole country of Germany. So let me give you an example of some crazy situations people I know have gone through. Like they're doing some degree in like science or engineering, and there's some mathematical course, maybe not the first or like the second level one, and they failed that, and somehow they even got to the 3rd level and 4th level and passed those, which should be more difficult. And they still never passed this test. So they have to go back. In Germany, it's a lot different than America as well. A lot of times, most of your grade is one big exam. Like the reason I think is they don't have the army of TA students from teaching assistants from India or China to be the slave labor to grade so many papers and grade so many exams. So instead, and this is actually common across all Europe, a lot of times your evaluation is just one big exam at the end of the semester for the class. And if you fail that exam, you're allowed to retake it once or two, usually 2 or 3 more times, and that's it. But you just have to rewrite the whole exam. You don't have to redo the whole course. Like you should go off, study it by your own. You can redo the whole course, I guess, sometimes, but normally it's you go study off for your own. So sometimes people fail some tests and they put off retaking it, and they just keep going up through their degree. And they've done 3-4 years of study. They're like, oh crap, because they're nervous about it. I have to go back and do mathematics, ABC, whatever level mathematics exam. And maybe they just got unlucky, got sick one day, or they arrived late to one, and they failed it 3 times. Now normally the last time isn't a written exam. Normally last time is kind of like the Hail Mary, where you actually go sit in front of the professor one-on-one, and it wouldn't be written. You would instead do an oral exam, and he would just give you a fail or pass, and they would just like just give you the minimum passing grade if you get to that point. But maybe your professor doesn't even like you that much and you can't even get through that and you fail that module. In Germany, I think they use the word module. Well, now you can't take that module again. You've used up your 3 strikes or whatever, and you can't take it again at the university you're at. And you also can't take it anywhere else in the country. So it's not like you can take it somewhere else and like transfer the credits over, like if it's a similar named module. So now you can't get your degree in that area. Well, if this was a basic mathematics class, like mathematics 1 or 2, you failed that 3 times, just maybe not even because you couldn't understand it, just because it was your first or second semester at university and you were partying too much and you just didn't study hard enough and you just came hungover and failed the thing 3 times. Well, now not only can you not get a degree from a German university in that area, you can no longer get a degree in any area that requires that module. So I met a person who had to go to Switzerland, a different country, pay to take that module just to be legally allowed to take it, so he could transfer the credits back to Germany to get his degree. Or maybe he transferred the credits to Switzerland and finished up there. It was like one of those things. But it's kind of crazy because in America, if you can take it as many times as you want as long as you're paying, right? You're paying, not the taxpayers. So as long as you're paying, the university is like, great, we make more money. Stay as long as you want and keep paying for more semesters, and you probably don't have financial aid anymore, so it's even more money that you're paying. You know, you can pay to play. In Germany, since if you go to a private university, I'm sure you can do that. But if you're in a public university, yeah, you can run out of time. So you gotta take it seriously. Don't do something stupid like that. Thing that remind me of is the German university system is actually, there's different types of universities. There's Universität, which is like the top level university, but they also have underneath it that Fachhochschulen. And these Fachhochschulen are, in English we'd call them University of Applied Sciences. And these are more for practical skills. So the top level university would be more theoretical. But if you learn the theory, but more practical, like, you know, for example, in engineering, a lot of it is in Fachhochschulen, not universities. Because in the Fachhochschulen, like, they're going to teach you more about, okay, you're going to assemble the circuit boards, you're going to know how the transistors and things work, but you're not going to be like inventing new, better transistors, you know, at the theory level. You're going to be taking the knowledge of science that you've learned and applying it practically. Usually universities are higher ranked, you know, it's more prestigious to go there than a Fachhochschule, but actually sometimes, depending on the Fachhochschule you go to, when it comes to actually salaries and job placement, the Fachhochschule can be just, if you're planning going into the workforce and not getting a PhD, the Fachhochschule can be better. Now, if you're getting a PhD, you can go to a Fachhochschule and still get a PhD later after your degree, after you get a bachelor or master's. It's still possible to go to a university and get a PhD, but probably if that's your focus and you know that now, it's better to start in like a Universität because it's more prestigious, it's more on the path. You know you're going to have all the modules and things you need to complete to be able to get into that PhD program. All right, to finish up, just a few last thoughts about studying in Germany. One thing, again, is, like I said, there's only the one big exam at the end, and so compared to America, well, not probably compared to Europe, but compared to America, the studying there is much more on your own. It's a lot less take your hand. Like in America, we have problem sets due every week. In Germany, the class might give you a problem set every week, but it's not collected or graded. They're like, this is what you should know to do. Go home, figure out how to do it. A lot of times in Germany, I found they didn't really care if you even went to the lecture, right? Like if you learn from lectures, that's great. Some of them had attendance, but most didn't. It's like if you learn from lectures, that's great. If you don't, and you learn from books, why should we tell you to come to lecture? Learn from the book. All that matters is this is what you know how to do. So you have all semester to figure it out. I'll be here to kind of help you in the lecture hall. But outside of that, you just prove it at the end of the semester by writing the exam. And a lot of times what happens, of course, is people, they might go like 3 months doing barely anything. And then the month or two before the exams, everyone just disappears. All the students just lock themselves in the library and they just cram for the 2 months. And they do all the work they should have probably been spreading out over the semester. They wait until the last 2 weeks before the exam to do it, or the month. So that's one difference. It's not leading you by the hand so much like as in America and telling you each week what to do. It's a lot less structured. They're just like, this is what you have to do, and do it. And it's up to you to figure out the best way of learning. It's up to you to find which textbooks you should be using. They might not even recommend a textbook. They're like, yeah, there's a bunch in the library on this subject. Here are my slides. If they're not good enough, go to the library, find a book. Here's some recommendations, not giving super assigned reading or something like that. All right, I think I'm going to leave it there when it comes to talking about education. Oh my God, this video has already gotten pretty long. So in the next video, I guess I'm going to make the next video. It's going to be talking about the cost of living, what's it like living there, the transportation, the work life, the weather, the food, health insurance, maybe some more stuff, but that already sounds like a lot. So I'll talk about that in the next video, and I'll see you then. Till next time.